The Champagne Tower looks like a glass waterfall under the hotel lights, all glitter and noise and curated applause. The ballroom of Northbridge Capital is packed with partners, clients, and carefully selected rising stars. Summer Taylor keeps telling herself she belongs here. She smooths the skirt of her new pale pink dress, the one she bought with 2 weeks of takeout money, and curls her fingers around the project review folder hidden in her clutch. Her heart thuds faster every time she looks at the stage. Tonight is the celebration dinner for the new energy investment model, the project that has eaten 3 months of her life. She ran every dataset, built every assumption, and spent night after night in the office, while the cleaning staff vacuumed around her desk. She has the dark circles and extra coffee charges to prove it. You look nervous, Lily says beside her, blowing on her champagne like it is too expensive to drink. Relax. Our manager is about to turn you into a star. Summer smiles, because she is still the kind of person who believes compliments. I am just excited. Gray said he wanted to surprise me. Lily's eyes flick toward the stage, something sharp and secret passing over her face. Oh, he will. The CEO finishes his speech about innovation and leadership. Applause ripples through the room. Then the host booms into the microphone. Now, let us welcome the man behind our groundbreaking new energy investment model, the leader who carried this project on his shoulders, Gray Cohen. For a second, Summer thinks she misheard. Gray strides onto the stage in his tailored navy suit, expression calm, hair perfect, the picture of a trustworthy manager. The spotlight washes over him as if the whole project really did come from his brain. Summer's palms go clammy. She waits for him to say her name. He promised, in that warm voice that made her believe him. Gray takes the trophy, looks out at the glittering crowd, and smiles. This project could not have succeeded without my team, he says, voice rich with false humility. But at the end of the day, someone has to take responsibility for the model. I spent 3 months fine-tuning every assumption and scenario, pushing myself to make sure we delivered the best for our clients. Laughter and applause. His colleagues slap the tables, like this is all a charming joke. Summer's ears ring. 3 months. Those were her 3 months. Her coffee, her unpaid overtime, her spreadsheets. Her legs move before her brain catches up. She shoves back her chair, the legs screeching on the polished floor. Conversations nearby cut off mid-sentence. Gray. Her voice cracks, but she does not care. She steps into the aisle, clutching her folder like a shield. That model is mine. I built it. The entire ballroom turns to stare. On stage, Gray goes very still. For a brief second, his eyes are flat and cold. Then he recovers, lips curving into something like regret. Summer, he says into the microphone, chuckling softly. You are my intern. You assisted me, and you did a good job. But it is not appropriate to exaggerate your contributions at a company event. Heat rushes to her face. I did not assist you. She fires back, voice shaking but loud. You asked me to lead the modeling. I ran the site visits. I wrote the scenario tests. Those are my risk notes you are quoting. Murmurs spread through the tables. Lily stands up a few seats away, moving fast, eyes wide in fake concern. Summer, hey, maybe sit down, okay? She says. Gray has always taken care of you. He even stayed late to fix your formulas the night before the client meeting, remember? Summer stares at her, stomach flipping. What formulas? They were clean. Gray nods as if this confirms something. We all make mistakes when we are new. He says kindly. The important thing is to learn from them, and not confuse team deliverables with personal projects. People are watching like this is a show. Phones lift, not obviously, but enough that she notices the glow of cameras. Her throat closes. Check the version history. She blurts, voice breaking. She fumbles open the folder, pulling out printed spreadsheets. My name is on every file. I sent you the draft at 3 in the morning. Gray steps away from the podium. He walks down the stairs with deliberate calm, trophy still in hand. When he reaches her, he leans closer so only she can really hear him, though everyone can see them. Look around, Summer. He says softly, smile never moving. This is not school. Nobody cares who did the homework. They care who takes the blame when it goes wrong. Her fingers lock around the papers. You promised you would recommend me for a full-time offer. She whispers. I promised to see what I could do. He corrects. And I did. This is me, doing what I can. Before she can respond, a sharp voice cuts through the tension. Summer Taylor. The HR director says, heels ticking across the marble as she approaches. She holds a crisp white envelope in hand. We need to speak with you. Summer blinks. Now? Yes. After an internal audit, we have reason to believe you leaked early-stage model data to an outside contact. The HR director says, tone clinical, carrying easily over the suddenly silent room. Effective immediately, your internship is terminated. Security will escort you downstairs. Gasps. Someone whispers. Leaked data? Another says. I knew it was too good to be true. Summer shakes her head hard, her ponytail whipping. What? No, I never leaked anything. I worked for this company. I killed myself for this project. The HR director does not flinch. We have email evidence. I do not even know any competitors. Summer says, voice cracking higher. She looks to Gray out of instinct, like maybe he will clarify, fix this, tell everyone it is a misunderstanding. Gray sighs, a perfect imitation of reluctant disappointment. Summer, I told you that chatting loosely about work could cause problems. He says. I warned you when I saw those late-night messages on your phone. You cannot say whatever you want to whoever you want. What messages? She chokes. We were talking about coffee and rent, Gray. Lily edges closer to him, touching his arm. Gray, maybe do not be too harsh. She says, loud enough for people to hear. She did not mean harm. She is just naive. Security appears at Summer's elbow. Two men in black suits, faces blank. They are not rough, but the touch on her forearm feels like a handcuff. This is insane. She says. Her vision blurs. This is my work. You stole my work. Gray leans in one last time, murmuring near her ear, his breath warm and poisonous. You handed it to me, sweetheart. He says. And you did it with a smile. That is the beauty of someone like you. So easy to trust. So easy to use. The words slice through her, more brutal than the public humiliation. Her folder slips from her numb fingers. Pages scatter over the glossy floor, charts and figures and risk notes skidding under other people's shoes. Summer watches her own work crumple under expensive heels as she is guided toward the exit. The last thing she sees of the ballroom is Gray lifting the trophy again, turning back toward the stage, bathed in light that should have been hers. Outside the ballroom, the corridor is colder. The elevator doors close in her face before she can reach them, the last sliver of gold light from the party disappearing. Just like that, 3 months of work and a future she believed in vanish, replaced by a single label that will follow her everywhere: data thief. The word repeats in her head like a curse as security leads her downstairs and throws her out into the winter night. She stands on the sidewalk in her pink dress, bare shoulders shaking in the wind, clutching the thin envelope that officially ends her career before it ever starts. Somewhere high above her, music swells and people cheer for a man holding a stolen trophy. Her eyes burn, but she refuses to let the tears fall. The next morning, her inbox looks like a car crash. 3 rejection emails arrive before 9 a.m. They all sound the same, polite and distant. Thank you for your interest in the analyst position. After careful consideration, we have decided not to move forward with your application at this time. The 4th one is not polite at all. We received information from your previous employer regarding a serious breach of internal data security. In light of this, we cannot consider you for any role within our firm. Summer stares at the words until they blur. Her coffee has gone cold beside her laptop. The tiny studio apartment she rents in Midtown feels smaller than ever, the skyline outside her window mocking her with glass towers she will never enter again. Her phone buzzes. Gray, I heard you are having trouble with interviews. She should block the number. She knows that. Instead, her thumb hovers. Gray, I told HR I was willing to give you a recommendation. Off the record. Summer, why would you do that? Gray, because I care about you. But you need to calm down and stop making scenes. Her jaw tightens. She types, deletes, types again. Summer, you stole my work. There is a pause. Then another bubble appears. Gray, I led the project. That is how this works. You are too emotional to see clearly. Gray, listen, you are not cut out for this world. Wall Street eats people like you alive. Gray, quit chasing something that is not for you. I can transfer you some money every month. You can take some time off, figure yourself out. Summer stares at the screen, nausea rising. Her thumb trembles. Summer, you think I want your pity allowance. Gray, I think you need someone who knows better to make decisions for you. Gray, do not kid yourself. Without me, you would never have gotten anywhere near that model. Memories flash through her mind. Gray leaning over her shoulder, praising her clean structure. Gray telling her he believes in her. Gray brushing a stray hair from her face as he said, "You are special, Summer." She had believed every word. Summer, do not contact me again. She hits send before she can change her mind. Then she blocks his number with shaking fingers. The silence afterward is almost worse. Days blur. Each job application ends with the same invisible wall. Someone at Northbridge is talking, and no one wants to take a risk on a supposed security threat. Her savings shrink to numbers that make her heart race. Her parents call from the suburbs, voices warm and worried. "Sweetheart, come home for a while." Her mother says, "New York is not going anywhere. You can reset and try again later." Summer forces a smile she cannot feel. "I am fine, Mom. I just need to land something. I cannot give up now. At least let us help with rent." Her father says, "You do not have to carry this alone. I will be okay." She insists, even as the numbers in her bank app say otherwise. Pride is the last intact thing she has, and she clings to it with both hands. 2 months later, pride does not pay the landlord. She sells her designer interview blazer on a second-hand app. She eats instant noodles and stale bread. Her cheeks hollow, and the pink dress at the back of her closet feels like it belongs to another person. Finally, the email she has been dreading arrives. "We have not received your full rent payment for the past 2 months. If the balance is not cleared within 7 days, we will proceed with eviction." Eviction. The word makes her chest tighten. She cannot call her parents again. Not now. Not when they told her she could come home, and she refused. She spends that night sitting on the floor, back against the couch, laptop open, searching for cheap rooms far from the financial district. Every listing she clicks on feels like a step further away from the future she had drawn in her mind. A week later, she fits her life into 4 cardboard boxes and a battered suitcase. The new place is in Brooklyn, in an old brick building with squeaky stairs and narrow hallways that smell like dust and laundry detergent. The rent is half of what she paid before. The room is also half the size. At least the windows are big. It rains on move-in day because of course it does. The sky hangs low and gray, leaking cold water in sheets. Summer struggles up the stairs with the 3rd box, arms burning, shoes slipping on wet steps. Halfway to the 3rd floor, the bottom of the box gives out. Books, mugs, and a framed photo of her college friends explode across the landing. A mug cracks clean in 2, ceramic skidding. Summer drops to her knees, rainwater soaking through her jeans. She picks up the broken pieces with numb fingers. The photo is speckled with water droplets, faces smeared. Her chest heaves. The pressure inside her, months of humiliation and anger and fear, finally bursts. She starts to cry. Not the pretty, controlled kind of crying, either. Ugly, shaking sobs claw their way out of her, loud in the echoing stairwell. Her shoulders hunch, hair plastered to her face, tears mixing with rain until she cannot tell which is which. "I am such an idiot." She gasps to the empty air. "I ruined everything." A pair of footsteps stops on the stairs above her. "Hey," a voice says, low and steady. "Careful. You are going to cut yourself." Summer scrubs at her eyes and looks up. The man standing there is tall, in worn jeans and a white shirt with the sleeves pushed up. His dark hair is slightly messy, not in the way of someone who does not care, but in the way of someone who ran a hand through it too many times. He holds an umbrella in one hand, the rain dripping off the edges. He bends down, picks up a shard of ceramic, and places it gently on the intact half of the mug. "Do you have a trash bag?" he asks. She sniffs. "What? A trash bag?" He repeats, calm. "For the broken mug, or we can just use the box." Her voice wobbles. "I do not know. I did not plan this part." His mouth curves, not quite a smile. Most people do not plan to fall apart in the stairwell. The matter-of-fact tone disarms her more than any sympathy. "My name is Ian," he says. "Ian Walker. I live in 3B. You?" "Summer," she says. "Summer Taylor, new tenant in 3C. Professional disaster." He arches a brow. "That is a rough job title." She lets out a strangled laugh that turns into another sob. "I got fired, then blacklisted. Now I cannot get hired to save my life." "What field?" Ian asks. "Investment banking," she says. The words feel sour on her tongue now. Well, I guess I used to be in investment banking." Ian studies her for a moment, eyes flicking to the waterlogged photo still in her hand. "You worked at Northbridge." It is not a question. Summer freezes. "How do you know?" "You have their tote bag," he says, nudging the canvas bag leaning against the wall with the toe of his boot. She looks. The company logo glares up at her. She had forgotten she was even using it. "Right," she mutters. "Should burn that." "You do not have to," Ian says. "The logo is not what hurt you." Summer snorts. Pretty sure it is part of the uniform for people who get thrown out of ballrooms. His gaze sharpens slightly. Thrown out. That is all it takes. The story spills out of her in jerky pieces. The celebration. The stolen credit. The accusations. The way Gray spoke like he owned her and her work. Ian does not interrupt. He just listens, one hand braced on the railing, the umbrella balanced against his shoulder so the rain hits him instead of her. Everyone believes him. She finishes, voice hoarse. And he is everywhere. Every time I apply for a job, they talk to someone who knows him. And then I never hear back. She wipes her face with the back of her hand. Mascara leaves faint gray streaks on her skin. I am so stupid. She whispers. He kept telling me he was protecting me, that he knew what was best. And I just believed him. I believed everything. Ian is quiet for a long moment. The rain drums on the stairwell window. You are not stupid, he says finally. You are just used to assuming that people mean what they say. That sounds a lot like stupid. She mutters. No, he says. Stupid is refusing to learn when the world shows you it is not that kind. You are bleeding right now, but that does not mean you have to stay the same. She looks up at him, eyes raw. What does that even mean? It means, Ian says, that you have a choice. You can let this break you, or you can let it burn the naivete off. What is left can be sharper, stronger. Like tempered steel, she says weakly. He nods once. Exactly. She laughs a little through the remaining tears. You sound like you have done this before. I spent 15 years across the river, he says. Wall Street. I know that world very well. You worked in finance? She asks, startled. What do you do now? I make coffee, Ian says. And sometimes, I help people who remind me too much of myself. Summer blinks. You own a cafe? Down the street, he says. Walker Grounds. The name was not my idea. The picture in her head does not quite fit. Why would you leave a big finance job to run a cafe? Because I got tired of watching people bleed out quietly in corner offices, he says dryly. And because there is more to life than bigger bonuses and smaller sleep cycles. He sets the broken mug pieces back into the sagging box and straightens. Listen, Summer, if everything you told me is true, then your ex-manager is not just a liar. He is dangerous. He knows you are his scapegoat, and he is comfortable with that. Tell me something I do not already know. She murmurs. Ian meets her eyes. You do not have to let him keep the narrative. The word sits heavy between them. Narrative. I do not even know where to start, she says. Start by not assuming he is smarter than you, Ian says. You built that model. That means you understand his weaknesses better than anyone. If you want to go back in, I can teach you how not to get eaten alive next time. She hesitates. Rain rattles against the stairwell window like impatient fingers. You would help me? She asks. I am bored, Ian says, but there is a warmth in his eyes that softens the words. And I hate bullies. You are not the first young analyst I have seen get thrown under a bus. Most of them stay down. I am curious to see what happens if one decides to stand back up. Summer looks at her broken mug, at the ruined photo, at the Northbridge tote bag on the wet floor. Her old life is in pieces already. Maybe there is nothing left to protect. Okay, she says, voice small but steady. Teach me how not to be eaten. A slow, real smile spreads across Ian's face for the first time. Good, he says. Come by the cafe tomorrow at 8. Bring a notebook. And the part of you that is done being the sweet girl everyone steps on. I do not know if that part exists yet. She admits. It will, he says. Trust me. She takes a breath that does not shake for the first time in days. There is still fear coiled in her chest, but there is something else now too. Spark. It is tiny and fragile, threatened by every gust of cold city air, but it is there. Walker Grounds smells like espresso, sugar, and something warm she cannot quite name. Maybe safety. The next morning, Summer pushes open the glass door at exactly 8 o'clock. A tiny bell above her head chimes. Sunlight filters through the front windows, painting long rectangles across the wooden floor. Ian stands behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, tamping espresso with practiced movements. He looks more awake than she feels. You are on time, he says. That is a promising start. I did not sleep, she admits, dropping onto a stool at the counter. She places a new notebook in front of her, the first page still blank. What are we doing exactly? He sets a mug in front of her. The foam on top is a perfect heart. We are going back to basics, he says. Drink. Caffeine helps with revenge. She wraps her hands around the cup. The heat seeps into her cold fingers, loosening something tense in her shoulders. I am not sure revenge is healthy, she says. Neither is letting someone rewrite your life story. Ian answers. We are going to talk about leverage, about narrative, about how you let a man like Gray control both. He grabs a marker and flips a chalkboard hanging on the wall from the menu side to a blank side. In neat all caps, he writes 3 words: information, power, consequences. This is the triangle people like your ex-boss live on. Ian says. He had more information than you did. He had more power, and he knew the consequences would fall on someone else. Summer chews her lip. So how do I change that? First, we figure out what actually happened. He says. Not what he told you happened. What you can prove. For the next 2 hours, they reconstruct the project from memory. Summer walks through every step, every late-night email, every file she sent. Ian listens, poking holes gently, asking questions she never thought to ask herself. Wait. He says. You said he logged into your computer once to fix a broken link before the client meeting. Yeah. She says. He said my version history was too messy, and it might confuse the auditors. Did you ever check it after that? Ian asks. She pauses. No, I was running to get coffee for the partner. By the time I came back, he had already closed everything. Ian taps the marker against the board. So he had access, unsupervised, to your files. He was my manager, she says. Of course he had access. Managers are not gods, Ian says. They are just people with keycards, and sometimes, they use those keycards to break things. He grabs her notebook and sketches a simple timeline, annotating it with the key events. Then he circles 2 dates. This is when your data supposedly leaked, he says. And this is when he took over the public narrative at the celebration. Summer stares at the circles. You think he sent something out under my login? I think a man who is comfortable stealing credit and gaslighting an intern is comfortable doing worse, Ian says. The good news is, companies like Northbridge love their digital paper trails. They have to store everything for compliance. How am I supposed to access that? She asks. I am banned from the building. You are banned from security, he says. Not from your own inbox. Your email address is probably disabled, but the account backup should still exist on your old laptop if you did not wipe it. I had to return the laptop, she says. But I backed up some files on a hard drive before that. Just my own work, not client data. Bring it tomorrow, Ian says. We will see what is still there. She swallows. The idea of going back through those files feels like reopening a wound. But if there is even a small chance Gray left fingerprints, she cannot ignore it. What about work? She asks quietly. I cannot keep living off noodles. I do not have time to chase ghosts. You are not chasing ghosts, Ian says. You are collecting ammunition while we stabilize your income. He pulls out a folder from under the counter and slides it across to her. Inside are printouts of LinkedIn profiles, company websites, and scribbled notes. I made some calls, he says. There are small businesses in the neighborhood that need help with basic financial planning. They cannot afford big firms, and they do not trust them much anyway. Summer flips through the pages, confusion mixing with curiosity. You set this up last night? I get bored easily. He reminds her. You can start by building simple cash flow models and debt schedules for them. You will not make banker money, but you will pay your rent and build a portfolio that does not have Northbridge's name on it. Warmth pricks behind her eyes again, but this time it is not from despair. You do not even know me, she says. I know enough. He replies. You got back up yesterday. That tells me more than any resume. The bell over the door rings as the cafe starts to fill with morning customers. Ian moves away to pull shots and ring up orders. Between lulls, he returns to the chalkboard, adding terms, drawing arrows, turning abstract financial concepts into stories. Most people think markets are about numbers, he says. But markets are about fear and greed. Learn to read those, and the numbers make sense. Summer scribbles furiously, her notebook filling with diagrams and quotes. For the first time since the night of the celebration dinner, her brain hums with something that does not feel like panic. Around noon, a group of young professionals in crisp suits walk in, loud and laughing. The logo on their lanyards twists her stomach. Northbridge. Lily is with them. She spots Summer at the counter and stops short, surprise flickering across her face, before amusement settles in. Well, if it is not our former intern, Lily says loudly, removing her sunglasses. I did not expect to see you here. Summer feels every eye in the cafe shift toward them. You never know where life will send you, she says, keeping her voice even. Lily leans on the counter, dropping her voice just enough that only the nearby customers can hear. Barista chic is a bold career pivot, she says. Is this a passion project or just what is left? Ian appears beside Summer, placing another mug on the counter. Lily, right? He says, tone pleasant. What can we get you and your coworkers today? She blinks at him, momentarily wrong-footed by his sudden presence. A large cappuccino, she says. Extra hot, 2 extra shots. We have got a big client meeting. Some of us still have those. Ian nods. Coming right up. As he turns away, Lily leans closer to Summer again. You know, Gray feels really bad about what happened, she says. He tried so hard to help you, but you just would not cooperate. Summer bites the inside of her cheek to keep from reacting. Is that what he told you? It is what everyone knows, Lily says. You were not ready. You messed up. He covered for you as long as he could. Summer thinks of Gray whispering, you are so easy to use. I am sure that is a very convenient story for him, she says. Let me know when you are done repeating it. A flush rises on Lily's cheeks. Wow, she says. New attitude. Where did that come from? Ian sets the cappuccino in front of Lily, foam art flawless. From the realization that she does not owe you an explanation, he says calmly. That will be $6.50. Lily shoots him a look, then plasters on a bright smile for her coworkers. Let us go, she says. The client is not going to wait, because the barista is talkative. They file out, the bell chiming as the door closes behind them. Summer exhales slowly. Her hands are shaking, but not as badly as they would have a month ago. That was fun, Ian says dryly. How did it feel not to apologize to someone who does not deserve it? Strange, she admits. Good strange. Get used to it, he says. You are not in the business of making other people comfortable anymore. Over the next few weeks, their routine solidifies. Mornings, she works in the cafe, learning everything from the perfect milk temperature to how to handle entitled customers without losing her soul. Afternoons, she meets with local business owners in the back booth, going over their finances, translating jargon into choices they can understand. At night, after closing, she and Ian hunch over her hard drive at a small table, scrolling through old emails and spreadsheets. One evening, just as she is about to give up on a particularly boring folder labeled Archive, Ian stops her. Wait, he says. Open that one again. She clicks. A log file appears, lines of system text filling the screen. I do not even remember what this is, she says. It is just some backup script. Ian points. Look at that line, right there. She squints. User login, Gohen. Accessing Taylor_model_V7_final. Her heart stutters. That is my model. Timestamp. Ian prompts. She reads. 3 a.m. The night before the client presentation. Who was supposed to be in the office at that time? He asks. Just me, she says slowly. But I went out to get food around 2:30. When I came back, Gray was there, and he said he had been fixing my formatting. Ian leans back, satisfaction flickering across his face. There is your first breadcrumb. He accessed your files under his login in the middle of the night. Summer swallows. That does not prove he sent anything. No, Ian agrees. But it proves he lied about how involved he was, and it proves he had opportunity. He taps the table with one finger, thinking. We need more. Payment trails, email headers, something that ties him to the competitor he accused you of leaking to. How do we get that? She asks. He gives her a slow, sharp smile she has never seen before. We invite him to underestimate you again, Ian says. Just one more time. Spring comes to the city in reluctant fits. 1 week, wind slices through every coat seam. The next, sunlight drapes over the streets, waking up sidewalk cafes and rooftop bars. Walker Grounds is busier than ever. Students cram for exams in the corner. Freelancers squat at tables with laptops and noise-canceling headphones. Summer fits between them all, part barista, part unofficial consultant. Her work with small businesses is growing. A bakery across the street avoided a predatory loan because of her analysis. A neighborhood gym restructured its membership pricing based on her models and finally started turning a profit. Every success fills a little more of the hollow space Gray left behind. Still, the stain from Northbridge remains. High-profile firms glance at her resume and pass. The Whisper network is slower to update than any balance sheet. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Ian slides a printout across their usual table. Northbridge is bidding on a municipal green bond issue. He says. You recognize the structure? Summer scans the document. It is similar to the new energy model. She says slowly. Different jurisdiction, but the risk buckets look familiar. They are using the same logic. Which means Gray is using your work again. Ian says. On a bigger stage. Something hot and sharp flares in her chest. How do you even know about this? I have friends, he says. Old colleagues who still find it entertaining to gossip with the dead man who runs a coffee shop. She traces the printed lines with her finger. If this blows up, the city takes the hit, not just private investors. And if it succeeds, Gray basks in the spotlight again. Ian says. Unless someone offers a better structure that exposes his blind spots. She looks up. Are you saying I should compete with Northbridge on a city bond issue? With what? My tiny one-woman firm, and a clientele that pays me in muffins and gratitude. I am saying you know that model better than anyone. Ian says. And you have spent months watching how real people use money, not just how it looks in a slide deck. That is an advantage. Fear and exhilaration war inside her. Even if I could build a better structure, no one would listen to me over Northbridge. Not if you show up as a random freelancer, no. He agrees. But what if you show up with a coalition of small businesses who would benefit from that bond being structured responsibly? And what if you leverage the fact that some reporters still love a David versus Goliath story? You want me to go public? She says. I want you to stop hiding like you are guilty. He says. The man who hurt you counts on your silence. He does not expect you to stand up in front of a microphone and contradict him with facts. Summer exhales slowly. If we do this, we have to be meticulous. She says. No mistakes. No holes he can punch through. Good. Ian says. Fear of failure makes for excellent drafting. They spend weeks building a parallel version of the bond model, one that accounts for community impact and realistic repayment capacity, instead of just short-term fee maximization. Summer meets with local shop owners and neighborhood groups, listening to their concerns, weaving them into her assumptions. She begins to see the city not as a map of potential deals, but as a network of lives. One evening, as she pins another printout to the corkboard in the cafe's back room, Ian watches her, arms folded. You have changed, he says. She glances down at herself. Her hair is shorter now, a sharp bob that schemes her jaw. Her clothes are darker, more tailored. The pink dress is gone, replaced by a black blazer she bought with money she already earned. I hope so, she says. I do not want to be the girl from the ballroom anymore. You are not, he says. She would not be here rewriting a city's debt structure. She smiles, a little surprised by the warmth that spreads in her chest at his words. You are not so bad at pep talks yourself. Do not tell anyone, he says. It will ruin my grumpy ex-banker image. Their banter is easy now, threaded with something unspoken, that neither of them pushes too hard. There is too much work to do, and neither is sure what comes after revenge. The municipal hearing is scheduled for a Thursday morning. The night before, Summer lies awake in her small room, staring at the ceiling. The fear that Gray will find a way to twist this two coils in her stomach. Her phone buzzes. Ian, you ready to set the snake pit on fire? She snorts softly. Summer, that is a dramatic way to describe a policy hearing. Ian, you are underestimating your own drama potential. Ian, get some sleep. Your brain needs to be sharper than his ego tomorrow. She hesitates, then types. Summer, thank you for all of this. Ian, you did the work. I just poured the coffee. She smiles in the dark, the knot of anxiety loosening just enough for sleep to finally come. The hearing room the next day is smaller than she imagined, more fluorescent lights than grand chandeliers. City officials sit behind a raised dais, laptops open in front of them. Reporters cluster in the back rows, cameras ready. On one side of the room, the Northbridge delegation waits in sleek suits. Gray stands at their center, flipping through his notes. He radiates confidence. The kind that used to make her feel safe. Now it just makes her feel sick. He spots her across the room, and does a double take. Surprise flashes through his eyes before he smooths his expression into something like pity. Summer lifts her chin and looks away. Ian squeezes her shoulder. He stands behind her, technically here as a citizen and business owner, but mostly here as a silent anchor. When the officials call for public comment, Northbridge presents first. Gray performs. He talks about efficiency, growth, and innovation. He waves at charts and speaks in polished phrases that sound good and mean little. He makes no mention of risk beyond the bare minimum. When he finishes, he looks very pleased with himself. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. The chairwoman says. Next, we have a submission from Walker Financial Consulting and a coalition of local businesses. Ms. Taylor? Summer's legs feel like they belong to someone else as she stands. Her heart kicks hard against her ribs, but her voice, when it comes out, is steady. Good morning, she says. My name is Summer Taylor. Until recently, I worked inside the kind of institution that is proposing this bond. Today, I am here to speak for the people who will actually live with the consequences. A murmur moves through the audience. Some reporters look up from their phones. We have reviewed Northbridge's proposed structure. She continues. On the surface, it looks attractive. Low initial payments, backloaded risk. But if you look deeper, you will see that the assumptions are optimistic to the point of being reckless. She clicks the remote, bringing up her own slides on the projector. Her models are not as glossy as Northbridge's, but they are clear. She walks the officials through stress scenarios, pointing out the points at which the city would be forced to cut services or raise taxes to keep up with payments. She uses examples from the businesses behind her, from the bakery that almost drowned under its last refinancing to the gym that sacrificed repairs to pay a ballooning loan. This is what happens when you design products that look good on a pitch deck, but ignore real-world volatility. She says. There is a better way to do this. She lays out her alternative, a structure with more conservative base assumptions, transparent risk sharing, and automatic triggers that prioritize essential services over investor returns in crisis periods. It is less flashy, she admits. The short-term yields are lower, but it is sustainable, and it does not turn your neighborhoods into collateral damage. When she finishes, the room is quiet for a moment. Then the questions begin. Some officials press her on details. She answers, faster and cleaner than she thought possible. Months of night sessions with Ian have burned the logic into her bones. At one point, the chairwoman asks, Miss Taylor, Northbridge has suggested that you were dismissed from their firm for a breach of data security. Why should we trust your analysis over theirs? The air in the room tightens. Summer feels Gray's gaze like a physical weight. She forces herself not to look at him. Because truth does not require a perfect messenger, she says calmly. And because facts are not loyal to reputations. Everything I have shown you today is based on publicly available data and conservative estimates. You can hire a third party to audit my model. In fact, I encourage you to. A few reporters scribble faster. She could stop there. But something inside her refuses to stay quiet any longer. As for my dismissal, she says, voice cool. Northbridge accused me of leaking early-stage data. They never found proof, because there was none. If they had, I would not be standing here as a free person. But the accusation served its purpose. It silenced a junior analyst who questioned some of their more aggressive calls. A muscle jumps in Gray's jaw. I cannot stop them from painting me as the problem. She continues. But I can refuse to disappear. You do not have to take my word over theirs. You just have to examine the numbers in front of you and ask yourself whose story they support. The chairwoman regards her for a long moment. Then she nods once. Thank you, Miss Taylor. When Summer sits, her knees nearly buckle. Ian catches her elbow, steadying her. You were brilliant. He murmurs. I thought I was going to throw up. She whispers back. That is how you know you are doing something that matters. He says. After the hearing adjourns, reporters swarm. Some head toward Gray. A few peel off toward Summer. Miss Taylor, can you comment on your dismissal from Northbridge? One asks, thrusting a recorder toward her. Not today, she says, forcing a small smile. Today is about the bond and the people it will affect. She answers a few more questions about her model, then extricates herself as politely as she can. Outside the building, rain has started again, light and misty. She and Ian step under the awning. Gray appears a moment later, alone, his colleagues engrossed in conversation a few yards away. His smile is gone. That was quite a performance, he says. I did not realize you had decided to reinvent yourself as a whistleblower. I am not blowing any whistles, she says. I am doing my job. Your job, he repeats. Summer, you are playing with fire. You think these officials are going to choose your untested model over a firm with our track record? I think they are going to do what is best for the city, she says. And if that means asking more questions about your assumptions, so be it. He steps closer, lowering his voice. You got lucky in there, he says. One hearing does not erase what is on your record. You are still the intern who rode my coattails until she fell off. Ian shifts subtly, placing himself a little more between Gray and Summer. Funny, Ian says. From where I was sitting, she looked like the only one in the room, who was not reading someone else's script. Gray's eyes flick to him, narrowing. And you are? A concerned citizen, Ian says. And someone who does not enjoy watching bullies get away with sloppy work. Gray gives a small, incredulous laugh. This is cute, he says. You really think you can hurt me with this little stunt? Go ahead. Enjoy your moment. In a month, no one will remember your name. He turns away before they can answer, striding toward a black car waiting at the curb. Summer watches him leave, heart pounding. The fear is still there, but it no longer owns the whole room inside her. Do you think he is right? She asks quietly. That this will not matter. It matters already, Ian says. You spoke. You showed up. The story is no longer just his. 3 days later, a city journalist publishes a piece titled, Small Firm Challenges Wall Street Giant on Risky Bond Plan. Summer's name is in the first paragraph. It is not vindication. Not yet. But it is a crack in the wall. The article changes things faster than Summer expects. Her inbox fills with messages from people she has never met. A school board member from another borough asks if she can look over their financing options. A nonprofit director says, we need someone who speaks both numbers and human. Is that you? Even more surprising, 2 junior analysts from Northbridge reach out from personal accounts. I read the article. I am sorry for not saying anything when you were fired. You were right about the model. He has been pushing deals like that for years. Summer reads the messages 3 times, pulse racing. They are afraid, Ian says when she shows him. Afraid of what will happen to them if they speak up, but afraid of staying quiet too. How do we help them without putting targets on their backs? She asks. We give them a way to share what they know without standing alone, Ian says. And we build a case so strong that no one can ignore it. They set up an encrypted inbox and send the address to the analysts. Soon, it is not just 2 voices. It is 5, then 10. Stories of Gray cutting corners, misrepresenting risk, bullying junior staff into signing off on positions they did not understand. Along with the stories come attachments, screenshots, partial spreadsheets, a draft complaint some lawyers in compliance once considered filing before it vanished into a drawer. Summer organizes everything, her walls slowly disappearing under pinned printouts and colored string. Each new detail feels like a puzzle piece sliding into place. One night, as she yawns over a particularly dense email chain, Ian brings her a cup of herbal tea instead of coffee. You need to sleep at some point, he says. Burning out now would be extremely anticlimactic. She smiles tiredly. I keep thinking about the girl I was that night in the ballroom, she says. If she could see this room right now, she would not believe it. The girl in the ballroom is still here, he says quietly. She is just less interested in applause and more interested in truth. Heat creeps up her neck. She clears her throat. What about you? She asks. Why does this matter so much to you? You got out. You could have stayed anonymous, made latte art, watched the circus from a safe distance. Something shifts in his expression, a shadow passing through his eyes. I had a Gray, he says. Different name, same template. I watched him blow up portfolios, and then blame it on junior staff, who could not defend themselves. One of them did not make it. He took the fall so hard he did not see a way through. Summer's chest tightens. Ian, I am so sorry. I left after that, he says. I told myself walking away was the most I could do, that I was too tired to fight that kind of rot. For a while, I believed it. He looks at the wall of evidence. Then you crashed into my stairwell with broken mugs and mascara everywhere, he says. And I realized I had a chance to choose differently this time. The air between them hums with something fragile and bright. Thank you, she says softly, for choosing me. His gaze holds hers for a heartbeat longer than necessary. Then he looks away, breaking the tension with a crooked smile. You are welcome, he says. Now drink your tea before it gets cold. We have fraud to map. They spend the next weeks turning messy stories into a clear, coherent narrative. Summer writes summaries in plain language, translating dense jargon into timelines anyone can understand. When they are finally satisfied, they send the package to 3 places at once: the securities regulator, an investigative journalist with a reputation for taking down corrupt finance players, and Northbridge's own board, addressed to the independent directors. The waiting almost breaks her. Do you ever worry we are wrong? She asks Ian one afternoon, staring out the cafe window as rain streaks down the glass. That I am just seeing patterns because I want to hurt him. Ian considers this. I worry about ego, sure, he says. That is why we double-checked everything. Triple-checked. We did not base this case on feelings. We based it on documents that contradict each other. He nudges a stack of printed emails. You did what your younger self tried to do, he says. You told the truth. This time, you made sure you had backup. The first response comes from the journalist. This is big. I will need to corroborate with my own sources, but you have given me a map. Thank you. The second comes from the regulator, in much more formal language, acknowledging receipt of the complaint and stating that they have opened a preliminary inquiry. The third is silence, until it is not. 2 months after they hit send, news breaks that Northbridge's board has hired an outside firm to review their internal risk controls, following serious allegations of misconduct regarding one of their managing directors. The name is not in the official statement, but the internal memo that leaks that afternoon leaves no doubt. The subject line is, Temporary Leave Gray Cohen. Summer sits at the counter of Walker Grounds, phone buzzing nonstop with notifications, and lets herself breathe. Lily appears that evening, alone this time. She looks different. The expensive clothes are the same, but the careless confidence is gone, replaced by exhaustion. Can we talk? She asks quietly. Summer studies her for a moment. Then she nods toward a table in the corner. They sit across from each other, the cafe hum a protective buffer. I should have stopped him that night, Lily says without preamble. I knew he was lying. About the data. About you. Summer does not respond right away. Lily's hands twist in her lap. I liked the attention he gave me, Lily says. The way he talked to me like I was special. I did not want to lose that, so I pretended not to see what it cost other people. Her voice cracks. But when I read about the investigation, I realized, if he could throw you under the bus, he will do the same to me someday. He already did, Summer says quietly. He used you as a mouthpiece. Lily flinches. I know, she says. That is why I am here. I am going to the investigators. I have emails. I have recordings. I should have come forward sooner, but I did not. I am sorry. Summer takes a slow breath. The anger is still there, a scar that will not fade overnight. But alongside it is something else, the clear understanding that Gray hurt Lily too, just in a different flavor. I cannot forgive you for what you did to me, Summer says. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I am glad you are finally telling the truth. Lily nods, eyes shining. That is fair. She stands to leave, then hesitates. Do you ever miss it? She asks. The feeling of being inside the machine, of being important? Summer thinks of the ballroom, the lights, the thrill she felt when she thought her work would be recognized. Sometimes, she says honestly. But then I think about who I had to be to stay there, and I would rather be here, building something that does not require me to look away from the damage. Lily swallows. I hope I can get there too, she says. When she is gone, Ian appears with 2 slices of cake. Brave of you, he says. I did not do it for her, Summer says. I did it because I am tired of him winning. Revenge and integrity, Ian says. An underrated combo. Weeks later, the regulator files formal charges. Gray Cohen is accused of fraudulent misrepresentation, data manipulation, and retaliation against employees who raised concerns. The complaint references a junior analyst terminated under questionable circumstances. Summer's name is redacted, but she can see the outline of her younger self in every line. Northbridge's stock dips. The board releases a new statement, this time with language about zero tolerance for unethical behavior and commitment to rebuilding trust. Gray is arrested, photos splashing across every business news site. His smug smile is gone, replaced by a pinched, pale expression as he is led into the courthouse. Summer watches the footage on her laptop in the cafe after hours. Her hands shake, but not from fear. Ian stands behind her, one hand resting on the back of her chair. How do you feel? He asks. She searches for the right word. Lighter, she says finally. Not fixed, but lighter. Justice is not a clean feeling, he says. But it is better than the alternative. She closes the laptop with a soft click. The room feels suddenly too quiet. What now? She asks. Now, Ian says. You get to decide who you are without him as the center of your story. The idea is terrifying and exhilarating all at once. 1 year after the hearing, Summer stands in front of a mirror, adjusting the collar of her red suit jacket. Her reflection looks back at her, steady and sharp. The bob frames her face. Her eyes hold a focus that was not there before. The girl in the pink dress is still in there somewhere, but she has been tempered by every fire she walked through. Her phone buzzes on the dressing table. Mom, watching the livestream link you sent. I am so proud of you. Dad, knock them out, kiddo. And remember to eat something after. Summer smiles, warmth spreading through her chest. She texts back heart emojis and promises of post-ceremony photos. Her firm, Taylor Walker Advisory, now occupies a bright office downtown. They specialize in ethical finance structures and community-focused investment strategies. It started in the back of a coffee shop. Now, she has a small team, clients across the city, and a reputation that has nothing to do with Gray or Northbridge. Tonight, she is receiving an award from a major business journal, Emerging Leader in Finance. There will be cameras. There will be speeches. There will be people who once crossed the street to avoid her now lining up to shake her hand. She straightens her jacket one last time and steps out into the hall. Ian waits for her by the elevator. He is in a charcoal suit this time, still with the same rolled-back shoulders and relaxed stance. He looks different in formal wear, less like a cafe owner, and more like the man he used to be across the river. But his eyes are the same, steady and warm, when they meet hers. You clean up okay? He says. You make a decent +1. She replies. He offers his arm. Ready, Ms. Taylor? She hooks her arm through his. More than ready. The event is held in a converted warehouse, all exposed brick and soft lighting. Strings of lights glow overhead, casting everything in a warm gold. As they enter, heads turn. Some people recognize her from the articles and panels she has done over the past year. Others simply read the name on her badge and connect it with the new firm everyone keeps talking about. Summer moves through the room with her chin up. She still feels flashes of the old anxiety, but it no longer dictates her path. During the cocktail hour, an older man with silver hair and a familiar logo on his lapel approaches her. Ms. Taylor, he says, extending a hand. I am Mark Davenport, chair of the Oversight Committee at Northbridge. For a moment, she sees the ballroom again. The trophy, the envelope, the security guards. Her heart gives one hard thump. She takes his hand anyway. Mr. Davenport. I wanted to say, personally. He says. That what happened to you at our firm was unacceptable. We failed you. But more importantly, we failed our own standards. We are trying to do better. The part of her that spent months in therapy and longer than that untangling guilt from accountability knows this moment is about his conscience more than her closure. But another part, the one that still remembers the sting of being dragged out in front of everyone, feels a reluctant flicker of satisfaction. I hope you do, she says. The industry could use more honesty. He nods, a bit stiffly. If you are ever interested in consulting on internal reform, we would welcome your insight. She almost laughs. A year ago, she would have clung to that offer like a life raft. Now, she has her own ship. I will think about it, she says politely. Right now, my plate is pretty full. He smiles, a little rueful. I imagine it is. After he leaves, Ian appears at her side with 2 glasses of sparkling water. You handled that like a queen, he says. I felt like a scared intern for a second. She admits. Queens get scared too, he says. They just do not abdicate the throne to their fear. The awards ceremony begins. Summer sits at a round table near the front, listening as names are called, stories told. Entrepreneurs, scientists, activists, people who rebuilt after losses, who refused to accept the first script handed to them. When her category comes up, the host's voice rings out. Our emerging leader in finance has not only built a successful firm, he says, but has also been a vocal advocate for transparency and ethics in an industry that desperately needs both. Please welcome Summer Taylor. The applause is loud. She rises, legs steady, and walks to the stage. The lights are bright, but she does not feel blinded this time. She feels seen. She takes the award, weight solid in her hand, and steps up to the microphone. Thank you, she says. A few years ago, I stood in a ballroom not unlike this one, and watched someone else hold a trophy that should have been mine. Then I was escorted out of that room with a label I did not deserve. There is a quiet rustle in the audience. Some people know the story. Others are hearing it for the first time. I thought my life was over. She continues. I thought one man's lie could erase everything I had worked for. But what I have learned since then is this: no one gets to be the sole narrator of your story unless you let them. She looks out over the crowd, finding her parents near the back, tears shining in her mother's eyes. She finds Ian, standing near the wall, hands in his pockets, eyes locked on hers. I was naive, she says. I was too trusting. I was a textbook example of the so-called sweet girl in a world that rewards sharp edges. There is a ripple of recognition in the room. But sweetness is not a weakness, she says. It is a starting point. When you put it through fire, what remains can be stronger than steel. You do not have to become cruel to protect yourself. You just have to become clear about your boundaries, about your values, about what you are no longer willing to tolerate. She thinks of Gray, of Lily, of the analysts who finally spoke up, of the small business owners who trusted her with their lives on paper. To anyone out there who has been told you are too soft, too emotional, too much of anything to survive in your field, she says, I hope my story proves that you can be kind and still refuse to be used. You can be open-hearted and still draw hard lines. And you can take the worst thing someone tried to do to you and build a life that outshines it. She pauses, feeling the weight of the moment, then smiles. Also, she adds, if a boss ever tells you that you are lucky they are protecting you, run. Laughter breaks the tension, rolling through the room. I would not be here without a lot of people, she says. My parents, who believed in me when I could not. The clients who took a chance on a woman working out of a coffee shop. And one particularly stubborn cafe owner, who reminded me that walking away from a broken system is not the same as giving up on yourself. She looks at Ian when she says it. His answering smile is small and private. Thank you for listening to my story. She finishes. I hope someday I get to hear yours. The applause crashes over her like a tide. This time, she lets it in. After the ceremony, the music starts and people drift toward the bar, the dance floor, the networking clusters that form like constellations. Summer steps outside for a moment of quiet. The night air is cool, the city humming around her. She leans on the railing, the award heavy but comfortable in her hand. Footsteps sound behind her. Planning your escape? Ian asks, coming to stand beside her. Just taking a breath, she says. There were a lot of lights in there. You handled them better than most hedge fund managers I have seen, he says. And they live for this stuff. She laughs, the sound light. High praise. They stand in silence for a beat, watching cars streak by below. So, Ian says, you have cleared your name, built a firm, toppled a mini tyrant, and picked up an award. What is next for Queen Summer? She pretends to think hard. Conquer Europe, she says. Become mayor. Develop a line of ethically sourced financial spreadsheets. He chuckles. Ambitious. In the immediate future, she says, turning to face him fully. I am thinking about expanding the firm. More staff, more training programs for students who do not have the right last names. I like that, he says. You would be terrifying as a mentor in the best way. A breeze ruffles her hair. For once, the future does not feel like a cliff. It feels like a road. I am also thinking, she says slowly, pulse picking up, that for a long time, my life has been about surviving men like Gray. I would like the next chapter to be about something else. He watches her closely, the noise of the party fading into the background. What would you like it to be about? He asks. She takes a breath. About building things with people I actually trust, she says. About loving without losing myself. About not waiting for permission to be happy. Ian's expression softens. That sounds like a better story. It is one I would like to write with you, she says, the words leaving her mouth before fear can stop them. If you want to. For a moment, he is quiet. The old summer would have filled the silence with nervous jokes. This summer holds it, letting it stretch. Finally, he steps closer. It took you burning down an entire corrupt narrative to get here, he says, a smile tugging at his lips. I would be a fool to say no. Relief and joy crash through her, fizzy and bright. Good, she says. Because I have this whole plan, and it would be awkward if you did. He laughs, and then, slowly, he lifts a hand to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. May I? He asks. Her heart stutters, but in a good way this time. Yes, she says. He kisses her. It is not a fireworks and violins kind of kiss. It is better. It is steady, sure, full of all the nights they spent over spreadsheets and coffee, all the ways he believed in her when she did not. She leans into it, feeling the last remnants of Gray's voice burn away in the warmth. When they break apart, she rests her forehead against his. Promise me one thing, she says. Anything. He replies. If I ever start to sound like him, she says. If I ever start to use people the way he did, tell me. Drag me back to myself. I promise, he says. But I do not think you are in any danger of that. You know what that darkness looks like. You will not wear it. She nods, breathing him in, the city, the night. Behind them, the party continues. Someone inside raises a glass in her honor. Somewhere else, a junior analyst reads her story, and decides not to believe their own gray next time. Summer straightens, holding her award up between them. To tempered sweetness, she says. To queens who learn to swing their own swords. Ian replies. Their glasses clink softly. No roaring crowd. No stolen trophy. Just two people, on a balcony above a city that once chewed them up, quietly choosing a different ending. For the first time since that night in the ballroom, the future does not feel like something that happens to Summer. It feels like something she gets to shape with her own hands, her own mind, and her own heart. And that, she thinks, might be the sweetest victory of all.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.